Welcome Kami Masters to the Yashima tutorial. Yashima is a competitive dueling game for 2 or more players. To start the game, starting with the eldest player and then proceeding clockwise, each player will need to get a Kami, a board, and a Kami Master, and all their associated tokens, models, and cards. Like, let's just say Bruce Lee. Like, let's just say Kenta, the tiger, and then a board. Each Kami comes with associated cards. They have 2 reference cards, a tome, and then their associated battle cards. The Kami that they pick will be comprised completely of battle cards. So, each player will take their Kami Masters battle cards and their Kami's battle cards and shuffle them together to make their battle deck. Now, most Kami Masters are associated with a specific status ailment. So, you'll need to grab all the tokens matching that symbol and keep them close by. And of course, grab that Kami Master's associated miniature. Now, before we begin setting up the board, let me show you how to set up your tome. To set it up, it works like a book. It will need to be ordered. So, the reference card is here on the left, number 1 is on the right, and when you turn it, number 2 is on the left, number 3 is on the right. Proceeding all the way to the final page. To start the game, you'll simply open it up to its first page, place your battle deck close by, and have your reference cards on hand. Now, these reference cards will show you your Kami's stats, and this one would simply give you the information on your Kami's specific abilities that are innate to them, and on the back is another reference sheet for the round overview. And this is a good way to set up your side of the board. To set up the board, you will first place a neutral tile with the relic symbol showing. Then each player again, starting with the eldest player, will take their selected board and place it adjacent to the center relic tile. These boards are double-sided and can be rotated in any way the player sees fit. But when subsequent players are adding their tile to the board, they must connect to the previously played tile and the center tile. Then, whoever placed their tile last will then be the first to take their miniature and place it on any blank space on the board they chose, in any facing. Facing is important in this game, however, there is no specific identification on your miniature itself. So be sure to confer with your players so everyone understands which is your miniature's front facing. After both players have set up their boards and miniatures, each player will then look at their reference card, place a number of cards from the top of their deck matching this karma value face up beside their deck, and then draw a number of cards equal to their hand value. To do that, you'll simply take the top card, flip it over, and place it beside your deck. Top card, flip it over, so that the karma values here on the top right are all that matters. Some cards have a sunburst karma value, which means they have a fate ability, and those come into play when these cards get placed into the karma pool like we just did. However, at the very beginning of the game, this will be ignored. Once each player has set up their karma pools and drawn their appropriate hand, you're ready to start the game, starting with the Destiny phase. In the game, there are these double-sided move and attack tokens, known as combat tokens, and you'll need to take a number of them equal to twice the number of players from the game box. Each player will be given one, and then, in alternating order, you'll place a token for every player, starting with move, and then switching to attack. So if we had a third player, they would get their own token, and then we place another move here in this common pool. And if there was a fourth player, we'd place another attack here in this common pool, and it would go alternating in that order. But we only have 2 players. Then each player with their token will select one in secret, one side facing, and once all players are ready to reveal, they will reveal their token and place it into the common pool. Then each player has a chance to reconcile. From their hand, they may select any number of cards and place them face down on the bottom of their deck, and then draw cards up to or below your max hand size. Once you've drawn a card in this manner, you can no longer place cards at the bottom of your deck during the reconcile step. Then it's time to determine initiative. To do that, each player will take the top card of their deck, revealing it simultaneously and placing it into their karma pools. Whoever drew the higher card will go first. If there is a tie, whoever's card reveals the higher attack value will go first. And if there's still a tie, each tying player will then reveal another card and keep going down the line until one player is determined to go first. Now it is the battle phase. The first player gets to perform 2 actions, a tome action and a combat action, in any order they choose. So let me talk about a tome action first. Your tome has certain abilities that you can perform on each page. The first tome action you can do is focus. You take the top card of your battle deck, reveal it, and place it into your karma pool. This can also cause terrain effects to trigger if you are on that associated terrain piece, but I'll get into that afterwards. The next action you can do is to delve. To do this, you take your tome and turn it 1 page in any direction you choose. So if I was on this page, for example, and I chose to delve, I could go forward 1 page or back 1 page. The next tome action I can take is to perform a karma ability. Each of these pages will have karma effects that you must pay for within your karma pool. To pay for a karma ability, you simply pay the karma cost and then follow the instructions as indicated on the card. The value of the cards that you use in this way must be equal to or greater. So for example here, if I wanted to do impatient demeanor, I would take this karma card with the value of 3, place it to the bottom of my deck, and then activate this ability, which is to turn pages forward in my tome twice. Something interesting about your tome cards is that you can have a card like this with a ripped sort of part at the bottom. You cannot perform any of the ripped actions until you first perform the top one. Now this one says to equip, so once you play its karma value, you can equip it to your master, and then the bottom of the page becomes available to you, and you can then perform those actions. And then there is another ability here called imprint. You pay the cost, and then you place this card at the bottom of your deck, so that in later turns, when it finally comes back up, as soon as it is revealed, you will then perform the bottom action. And then once any tome card, for whatever reason, gets discarded from the game, either an effect causes Kami Master to have one of their equipment destroyed, you'll place it back into your tome wherever it originated, meaning it might go under some cards and not be revealed, or it might go on top of a card that is currently revealed and now hide it, so that the tome is back in its proper order. So those are the 3 tome actions you can perform. The next thing you can do is a combat action, and that is where these tokens come into play. So since this is a common pool, you will simply take one of the tokens and activate it. Now you don't have to use the combat token, but you still have to take it from the pool during your turn. The move action is like you would think. Simply spend the token and move a number of spaces equal to your speed. Now here's where we can talk about the different terrain effects here. The first we got here is slick terrain. What this means is the first time you enter any slick terrain, it doesn't cost you a point of speed. So I can move 3, but if I were to spend any of my spaces moving onto slick for the first time, I don't spend anything. So I still have 3, I got 2, I got 1, and now I'm at 0. The next symbols we see here are dangerous terrain. In order to enter it, you must exert. To do that, you take the top card of your battle deck and you place it into your discard pile. Not your karma pool, your discard. And then we have this arduous terrain or difficult terrain. To walk into this space, you must spend 2 speed points. This heart symbol, if you were to focus on top of this symbol, you would also heal 1 point of damage by taking 1 card from your discard pile and placing it to the bottom of your deck. Now, relic terrains here are also known as solid terrain, meaning you cannot stand on top of it. But if you were to focus next to this, you can turn any Kami Master's tome 2 pages in any direction. So that could be useful for you or detrimental to your opponents. Also, if you are directly adjacent to a Kami Master, you are considered locked in combat. Meaning, if you wanted to move to a space that wasn't adjacent to a Kami Master, like backwards here, you would have to exert as an additional cost, plus any speed that you would have to spend to move out of the space. But that does mean that you don't have to spend speed to remain in adjacency to the Kami Master. And of course, the other side of this token is to attack. You simply take the token and then choose any one of your cards to perform your attack action. Now, all these cards have these attack patterns, meaning that you can only attack people that are in the red spots of the card, with the green spot and the arrow determining your Kami Master's position and facing. So if I wanted to attack that player directly in front of me, the only cards I could do that with would be these 3. Because this 4th card here has attack patterns that are not placing my enemy in range. So you simply look at your cards. You don't have to worry about paying for any costs, but you simply pick one and perform it. And before you actually perform the attack, you may choose to rotate your Kami Master in any direction just before the attack hits. If a Kami Master is in that line of fire, they are considered hit, and they may respond just before they take the damage with a defensive card. A defensive card will have the shield icon here and a keyword. It could be clash, it could be block, it could be counter, but as long as it has that shield, it is considered a defensive card. If you don't defend, you take the damage and lose a number of cards equal to the attack value. When you lose a card in this way, it can be from the top of your deck or from your hand, and you would simply take them and place them into your discard. But if you played a defensive card, you would then follow the instructions on the offensive card. This says lose this card, which means you're going to place it into your discard pile. Attacker and you exert. So each player would then take the top card and place it into their discard pile. If your card was higher karma than the attacker's, prevent all damage, otherwise present 4. So you look at the cards, resolve their effects, and then after the fact, do any lingering effects, like losing remaining cards, or not. After the attack is performed, you take the card that was used in the attack and place it at the bottom of your deck. Now, some cards here have the Adapt ability, and if we were to look here at your reference card, this says this card gains all the keywords and game text of your master's Adapt ability. So we'll look at your ability, and it says each hit master gains blind status. Now, hit means if they were dealt a single wound from the attack itself, not from other effects. If they were hits, then the ability would trigger and this Kami Master would gain a blind token. If they managed to prevent all damage, then they were not considered hit. Looking further at these attack cards, just to kind of go into more detail, they will have different effects here. And unless otherwise stated, these effects will all come into play. So if this player were to attack using this card, it would be empowered. You could place this card in your karma pool or on the top of your battle deck, as opposed to placing it on the bottom after your card is resolved. And this card is swift, meaning it cannot be responded to. So the opposing player could not use a defensive card in response to this. And then this card here has a Fate ability, which means it's only activated when this card gets revealed into the karma pool, but it also has the Fury ability, meaning that you will have to relocate each hit master one space in any direction. All of these effects come into play, so make sure you look at the card in its entirety. Looking at defensive cards, they will only be used when that action is being performed. Those are the basics of the game. Each player will then take their turns going back and forth, performing actions and abilities, one tome action and then one combat action, until all the combat actions have been taken from the collective pool. After that, you'll simply go back up to the Destiny phase, remake that pool, reconcile, determine initiative, and go back to the battle phase. Back and forth until one player has lost every card in their battle deck. This battle deck is not only where you draw cards to perform abilities, but it is your life. So as you're discarding cards, you are losing life. And once it hits 0, you are defeated. Now, if you're playing with more than 2 players, you're defeated, but not out. If that were to be the case, you simply take all your karma cards, put them into your discard pile, then you flip over your discard pile so that now it is your new battle deck, and therefore your new health pool. You maintain what pages your tome was on, and then you flip your Kami Master to its restored state. Its stats will be slightly different. It might have a different ability, but then you may continue play as a restored Kami Master. Now, if you were to happen to lose all your battle deck again into your discard pile, then you're outright killed. But as a restored Kami Master, you can stay in the game. You won't win, but you can take out your newfound aggression and perhaps get some revenge on some players who are still in the game and not restored. Once all but one Kami Master has become restored, that Kami Master wins the game. Or if you're playing a team game, once a team has become fully restored, the opposite team wins. If it just so happens that all Kami Masters become restored at the same time, or during the same turn, then the game ends in a tie. And those are the rules to Yashima, Legend of the Kami Masters. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. This is a fast-paced dueling game with very interesting and unique mechanics that encourages strategic placement and thoughtful timing. Thanks for watching. Let's keep on rolling.